Modern conspiracy theories occupy nearly every corner of our digital landscape. They are intricate networks of claims that multiply, casting long shadows over public discourse. The standard intellectual response is to dismiss these narratives. We tend to label them as mass delusion, waving them away as fiction with no connection to reality. But that raises a difficult question. If a theory were a complete fabrication, it should eventually collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. Yet these narratives survive and adapt across decades, and sometimes centuries. This diagram of an inverted pyramid illustrates how that survival is possible. The massive structure at the top manages to stay upright because it is balancing entirely on a single glowing cube of real historical truth at the bottom. Dissecting a movement of this size starts with that base. By isolating the mundane historical event at the foundation, the towering complexity of the myth begins to lose its structural integrity. Take the most famous global secret society, the Illuminati. Modern claims describe an omnipresent cabal. They are said to coordinate the global banking system, stage major historical conflicts, and exercise near supernatural control over governments and media. This diagram shows a timeline where a single point of data passes through the information medium, the technology we use to share news. In the late 18th century, that medium was word of mouth and sensationalist pamphlets. When facts traveled through those channels, the information fractured. Local political gossip was amplified and magnified into whispers of a global threat. Then the story hits the internet. The modern digital medium accelerates this process, multiplying those initial fractures into a chaotic web that obscures the original data point. This exponential sharing strips away boring historical context. Over time, the subtle details fall away, leaving behind only the most terrifying, easily shareable claims. When we analyze the massive conspiracy today, we are often looking at a narrative shaped as much by the speed and reach of modern tools as by the events that triggered them. If we strip back the digital noise and the centuries of pamphlets, we land on the actual historical foundation, late 18th century Bavaria. The real Illuminati was a short-lived group formed by a law professor named Adam Weishaupt. They were a small society of intellectuals who gathered to promote secularism and find ways to influence local political appointments. In a region tightly controlled by a conservative monarchy and the church, organizing a private anti-clerical club was a genuine threat to the established state infrastructure of that era. The Bavarian government reacted aggressively. They banned the society, raided homes, and confiscated the group's private diaries and letters, publishing them for the general public to read. This flowchart links that historical document directly to the first waves of public panic. Citizens held physical proof that a secretive group was trying to influence state power. The resulting paranoia originated from a public reaction to genuine government suppression and real physical evidence. This framework applies to nearly every major theory dominating our feeds. They are long, stretched shadows cast by mundane historical events. Seeing this dynamic offers a point of orientation. When the history is grounded, the distortion caused by the medium becomes visible. Recognizing the historical anchor changes how we process the myth. We can look past the terrifying noise and start analyzing the quiet facts. Energy spent debating every mutating branch of a claim is often wasted. Instead, the focus shifts to the root, locating that factual seed that allowed the rest of the narrative to grow. To dismantle a sprawling myth, you dig down to the base. You locate the actual history buried at the bottom and drag it into the light. When you expose the facts,